Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So currently we are sitting here, we are 23 days away from the 2022 midterms, 23 days away from the Republicans' best opportunity to make Joe Biden a lame duck president. It will be the halfway mark between the start and the end of his first term, and they have the opportunity to take back both chambers of Congress. And as we sit here today, it seems like the odds of them doing so increase significantly. And there are 4 polls that have came out over the past few days that show exactly just that, and that Republicans are in the lead. Not only that, they are increasing their lead among likely voters. The Harvard-Harris poll, which has not exactly always been the most favorable to Republicans this cycle in terms of the generic ballot polls, they have Republicans with no undecideds. They pushed all of the voters in the poll, all the respondents over to one side, and Republicans have a 6-point lead, 53 to 47. Which is a very sizable margin and would indicate that a red wave would be happening at that point. Rasmussen, Republicans are up by 7 points in Rasmussen. Now they weren't up by nearly that much in the last Rasmussen poll. CBS YouGov, which had not been really kind to Republicans at the beginning of the cycle, Republicans are up by 2 points over the Democrats with a sizable amount of undecideds there. And in the recent Trafalgar poll, Republicans lead nationwide in the generic ballot by 5 percentage points. So we are going to dive into this, but I wanted to first tell you guys about redeaglepolitics.com because some of my content does not make it onto this YouTube channel. However, you can get access to all of it by joining redeaglepolitics.com. It is just 16 cents a day or $5 a month. You get all my exclusive videos. I did a video critiquing some of these expert forecasts, so they call them, earlier in the week last week, and I will be making another video on the website this week for members only. I also have my Discord server. You can only join if you're a website member, and I've done a few newsletter articles for the midterms there as well that you guys get exclusive access to only by joining redeaglepolitics.com. But furthermore, these polls that came out are very telling, and they show which way the momentum is heading, because Republicans were dooming about a month or two ago, and a lot of the dooming has kind of gone out the window. A lot of Republicans are now energized. You saw the most accurate midterm indicator, or just generic ballot indicator in general, over the past 8 years or so, the Gallup Party ID, that showed Republicans up by 4 in their September average. We'll wait and see what their October one says at the end of the month. But either way, that shows that Republicans have the advantage here, because keep in mind, a few months ago, it was not R+4. Democrats had a slight advantage when you allocated the leaners within the party ID. But now Republicans have the advantage, and the generic ballot polls are starting to show it. I've compared 2022 to 2014, where Democrats led in a lot of generic ballot polling late in the summer, but when you started to see more registered voter polls dip out of the aggregate, and a lot of them starting to screen for likely voters as we get closer to election time, then Republicans typically tend to do better, because likely voters are what matters. It's not registered voters. If you're a registered voter, but you're not going to turn out, doesn't exactly matter. You poll likely voters, especially when you're this close to the election, and they tend to be more accurate than those early polls. The Labor Day bump is real. It is happening. You can't really deny that at this point, and this is true. And still, for some reason, RCP thinks it's a great idea to have some registered voter polls in the aggregate. You have one from Politico Morning Consult. I call them Morning Compost because they've been so awful over the past 5 years or so, especially at gauging presidential approval by state. And then you have the Fox News poll, which is registered voters, which Republicans are up in that poll among likely voters. I don't know why it's in the aggregate as a registered voter poll, but Fox News polls historically haven't even been that good. They're off in one direction by a lot or the other. And they're not exactly the most kind pollster to Republicans, despite the perceived notion by the public of Fox being a right-leaning network. They just haven't been. Their polling firm is conducted and led by a liberal and a never-Trump Republican, and it shows. But either way, Republicans still have almost a 2-point advantage in the polls right now in RCP, which would be more than enough, by the way, to take back the House and probably gain around 15 seats or so. But they're going to do better than that. They are. Absolutely. You look at this graph. We'll come back to this here. But either way, in polls that are likely voter polls, the Republicans are up in the aggregate by 3 percentage points, and that's been increasing, by the way. Meanwhile, the registered voter polls tend to be off, and they tend to be outliers, and they show Dems up in the other direction. And there's a lot less undecideds in the likely voter polls than there are in the registered voter polls. It's not even close. There's only, you could say, not even 7% undecided in the likely voter polls, but in the registered voter polls, there's almost 15% undecided there. So that's something to take into consideration. And if Republicans are winning by 3, that means they're getting close to 240 House seats. That means they're probably getting 53 Senate seats, because a lot of the Senate seats that are up for grabs in states that either, went for Trump in 2016 or will go for him in 2024, or were just razor-thin states in 2020 that if you bounce back the generic ballot just 1 point or so, take trends into account even, all of those should go Republican, and this is true. Georgia, a lot of people were worried about Georgia. A lot of people saw the debate on Friday night, and even the #1 newspaper that has just shilled for the Raphael Warnock campaign admits that Herschel Walker's debate performance was a net positive for him. It scored points for his campaign. He outperformed expectations. He spoke to voters. He called out Warnock. He did well enough to the point where he was able to get a lot of those, Brian Kemp voters that were not sure about him on board. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He went out there. He outperformed expectations. He did well enough, even if you want to say, well, he didn't really win the debate outright or he didn't destroy Warnock. He didn't have to. He did what he had to do to get it done where it was a net positive for his campaign, similar to the second debate in 2016 for Trump, if you guys remember. But either way, it's beside the point. The fact that it was divisive in terms of the left saying Warnock won while the right said Walker won, in terms of the fact that a lot of people who were unsure of Walker's performance on the right were thrilled with his debate performance, and the fact that Atlanta's left-wing, liberal, mainstream media that is shilled for Warnock is saying that Walker won the debate. I think Walker won the debate. He won the debate. He did well. It was a net positive for his campaign. Now, debates are not the be-all and end-all, but it shows. You look at what's going on in Pennsylvania with the trajectory there. You look at Arizona. Masters doing very well in his debate there. The only reason why the polls have Kelly up by 4 is that awful poll from Ohio, or not Ohio, but it's OH Predictive Insights that has the third-party libertarian Mark Victor getting 15%, which is absolutely laughable. There's virtually no way. But you even look past that point. Mark Kelly is polling in the mid to high 40s. He's nowhere near 50%. And he was at 50%, and he stayed at 50% in the polls during the 2020 election cycle. But you look at this, you look at the Senate races, they're looking fairly good for Republicans. And that's good. And you look at the generic ballot at, what is it, R+3? So far in the likely voter polls, that is a massive positive development for Republicans, and we still have 23 days to go. It's not over, but you look at the early vote in Florida, and you compare 2022 to 2020, the mail-in vote, and you see the fact that Republicans are only down by 4. And in 2020, when Republicans won the state of Florida, they trailed in the mail-in voting column significantly. They trailed by 23 percentage points. And you look at every single state, Republicans are doing better in Pennsylvania. Even in the mail-in vote, they're doing better in Maine. A lot of the states that register by party, the early vote is looking very good for them. So you're looking at all of these metrics, and it shows the red wave is here. It's here to stay. It's going to happen. The real question is, by how much? Are they going to really get R+3, or could they actually do better than this? Could they actually get up towards R+5? Because we know how the undecideds typically go. Republicans have the energy factor. Biden is hated. You look at the important issues in these polls. Harvard-Harris doesn't even have abortion in the top 4 among voters, and that's only 17%. Say that it is an important issue that is facing the country. January 6th, only 7% have January 6th. But you're looking at issues like inflation, the immigration issue. You're looking at crime. Republicans are capitalizing on all of these issues so far, and it is going to bode very well for them this midterm cycle. And it's so funny, because a lot of Democrats said Dobbs was a game changer. They point to very low turnout special elections to try to make their claim. Yet it seems as if in terms of this November, in every single poll that we see, whether it's The Hill, whether it's Rasmussen, whether it's whatever poll you want to put out, right-leaning or left-leaning, especially among independent voters, abortion, whatever terminology they want to use, it's not even in the top 4. And crime is surging. There's a reason why New York is even being called competitive at the governorship level or at the AG level. So you look at this and you look at the undecided voters in these polls, the 7% that remain undecided or so. Which way do you think those voters are going to vote? And that's the real question. And we'll have to see over the next 3 weeks or so how this election cycle plays out. But you can't look at this and say, oh, well, there's no red wave here, and the Democrats are in really good position to hold the Senate or to hold the House in some cases, because you'll have people that will say that they're insane. It's not going to happen whatsoever. This is a red wave year. Make no mistake. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.